image as well. In 2016, the University of Michigan announced a $169 million contract with Nike, which was the biggest in the history of college sports, until the University of Texas at Austin inked a $250 million Nike deal just months later. It all began nearly 30 years ago, when Oregonians became the first in the nation to abandon their public university system by voting for property tax cuts that left state colleges to fend for themselves. A decade later, dozens more states had set out on the same path, which has led us here. In 2017, for the first time, public colleges and universities in most states drew the majority of their revenue from tuition dollars rather than taxpayer support. The American public has, in other words, become a minority shareholder in the nation's public universities. And what happens next is all too clear if you know where to look. I began with a notebook full of questions, a campus full of rumors, and a sense that the University of Oregon was a canary worth following down a coal mine. My goal was not to write a biography of Phil Knight, whose life and career have been documented more extensively, and more flatteringly, in books authored by his friends, his colleagues, and himself. If my portrait of Knight seems overly critical, it is because I've sought to document a narrow slice of his life that has proven to be consistently controversial, namely, the extent to which his financial support of the University of Oregon has bought him influence over an institution that is meant to serve public, rather than private, interests. 4 years after I began investigating Knight's dealings with the university, my notebook had far fewer questions than answers, thanks to well over 100 interviews, supplemented by many thousands of pages of financial, legal, and archival documents. At last, I have my angle. 1. Tracktown, USA. Philip Hampson Knight was 7 years old the first time his father took him to a college football game. It was November 3, 1945, and just a few months had passed since the end of the Second World War. Many universities around the country were fielding teams for the first time in 2 or 3 years, and fans were eager to see young American men return from the battlefield to the football field. In Portland, Oregon, where the Knight family lived, some 28,000 people, 1 out of every 10 residents of the city, streamed into Multnomah Stadium for the afternoon game, braving overcast skies and periodic showers that had turned the grassy field to mud. Oregon versus Washington, Knight recalled. I asked, Dad, which is the good team? When answering the question, William Knight disregarded the fact that Oregon was losing more games than it was winning that season, and that the Washington Huskies were perched atop the resurgent Pacific Coast Conference. More than athletic excellence or national acclaim, loyalty seemed to be foremost in Knight's mind when he told his son that Oregon was the team he should support. He set me straight, Knight said of his father's lesson. William Knight's loyalty to the University of Oregon began as an accident of geography. Before he grew roots in Wisconsin, where he was born, his parents moved the family west. They raised William in a town called Roseburg, just 90 minutes south of the University of Oregon, where he enrolled after graduating from high school. He spent another 3 years in Eugene, earning his law degree at the University of Oregon, then briefly returned to Roseburg, where he was elected to serve as a Republican member of the Oregon House of Representatives when he was just 26. It turned out that politics didn't suit Knight, who bristled at the unwieldy nature of representative power. He served just 1 term before moving to Portland with his wife, Loda Hatfield, in 1938. The couple settled into a comfortable home in an upper-middle-class neighborhood called Eastmoreland, where William quickly found work as legal counsel for the Industrial Relations Association of Oregon, earning himself a reputation as a fierce union-busting lawyer of considerable clout. Phil was born soon after they arrived in Portland. William Knight passed both his ambition and his deep love for athletics to his son, who realized by the time he reached middle school that watching from the sidelines was not enough. At Cleveland High School, where he was an honor student,